5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
What's up, YouTube family? I want to thank you all for joining me today. And today you can call me Patrick. So I feel kind of Patrick right now. So what we're going to discuss today is three different situations involving uh, police officers and their interactions with black people. So first, we're going to discuss is a video that happened last Wednesday, so about 5 days ago. This happened in Seattle. So I came across it when I was on my Twitter, and basically, let me give you the gist of the video. Then I'm going to play it. It's 4 minutes long. I'm going to pause it every once in a while, and then I'll give a little commentary, a little background, and a little opinion about what's happening, what's being said, because I'm not 100% certain you'll be able to hear it very clearly. So when it comes to points that are important about what's being said, I'll go ahead and I'll fill you in on that. So just follow me. So I'm going to read the headline for you of the tweet. It says, "The neighborhood came together save an unarmed man from a bunch of maniacs with assault rifles and badges." They say they got a call. They said they got a call, so they had to draw down on a black man with a cell. All right, so I read the article about what happened. So I'm gonna set the picture for you. So there's this black man, this black gentleman. He, I believe, he stays in the apartment buildings that's behind him. I believe he stays in those apartments. And so he got into some sort of disagreement, an argument with someone in his home. So in order to cool off and get out of that situation before it escalated further than what it got, he went outside. He was by himself, so he, yelling to himself, being, he's just very aggravated, kind of upset, blowing off steam. So he's pacing, in front of his apartment. I guess he gets to the corner at one point, and he smacks the stop sign a couple times. And so the police got a call saying that they heard uh, two or three shots being fired. Someone's yelling, "You're gonna die," and just someone just sounded really upset, sounded like they heard gunfire. So what I think happened is that when the gentleman was outside cooling off by himself, just yelling to himself about his frustration, he smacked the stop sign a couple of times, and whoever the neighbor was who called the police heard that. Sounded like gunshots to them. It's not hard to believe. That's quite possible. The stop sign is pretty aluminum. Habit. Maybe if he had a ring on or something, he hit it hard enough in the right place. It could sound like a gunshot. Not exactly, but I wouldn't fault the caller for that situation. Could be a gunshot. To some people, someone unfamiliar with this, how guns sound. But either way, in this situation, I wouldn't too much blame the caller. It was a good call, in my opinion, because you never know. However, the situation that I want to talk about uh, is the police's response. Um, and so this is the first uh, story we're going to talk about. Then we're going to go into the second and the third, and it's a common thing: police interactions with black people and how we're under attack in this nation. And there's nothing new about that, but let's proceed. Get her. All right. So It's, so far what happened is that the police are almost an entire city block away from this guy. You know what I'm saying? Um, I know they don't know 100% that this guy doesn't have a gun, but in my opinion, that's pretty far away to be try to communicate effectively with someone who you're trying to, uh, solve the situation, de-escalate it, maybe, find out for sure if he has a weapon or not. And so what you hear is a constant argument back and forth between the victim and the police of, do you have a gun? He's constantly saying, I don't have a gun. I don't have a gun. I'm unarmed. And you have residents out there who's uh, corroborating the victim's story that he doesn't have a gun. One gentleman in particular says that he's more afraid of the police in this situation than they are the man who's being held at gunpoint by the police. Let's proceed. Can you guys fucking calm down? Keep yourself down. Yes, nothing on it. Yes, nothing on it. Right there. Uh, I'm gonna go back a few seconds after I make this point, but one point I want to make to black men, particularly in black people in general, uh, we have to stop being so emotional. Uh, not, I know in this situation maybe he's already was a little agitated by being, whatever situation he was dealing with at home. Now he's has guns pointed by the police, and I'm sure that that didn't do anything to help. But all this raw emotion and just, I didn't do anything. I know what's I have rights. I didn't do anything. What are you doing this? Stop it. All this extra stuff. We have to stop doing that because that gives police officers justification to use deadly force. It's not legal, but in the eyes of the general public, black people are already over emotional, irrational, and aggressive. Showing that sort of emotion would have gotten this man killed if he didn't have those neighbors, particularly those white neighbors, um, looking out for him. I want to just say one thing that stuck with me from Neely Fuller Jr. He's one of our eldest scholars. Uh, he's the gentleman who wrote the code. Maybe sometimes you heard people say black people need to get on code. This man wrote the code. So if you don't know about Neely Fuller Jr., look him up, grab his book. That's the code. That's what we're referring to. When we say stay on code, read that book, you understand what the code is. But back to the video. I'm going to go back about 5 seconds. Pay attention to the victims in the yellow hoodie, his reaction, his emotion. It's just a little bit too much drama for this situation. We have to be stoic. We have to be stone cold, focused, and don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. About right here, sir. Nothing on it.
No, I can't see anything either.
You want me to walk up with you, man? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna walk up with you, okay? All right. So, the police said, well, if you don't have a gun, walk towards us with your hands up. If you don't have a gun, uh, then the gentleman said, I can't fucking see anything. And so, what I think the gentleman, what the real situation about it was that he was scared. Uh, you don't really need to see much, but the ground, in order to walk forward with your hands up. Sure, the lights are bright, but I think more so that the gentleman was more scared than anything to come closer to the police. Maybe he thought he would make an easier target to hit. I mean, he would, but uh, his tone changed, and once the white civilian who's looking out and helping him out in the situation said, "Do you want me to walk with you?" And he said, "Yes." So I think it was more out of fear that he didn't walk towards the police when they said, "Walk towards us if you don't have a gun with your hands in the air." So you can't blame him.
Well, I'm just gonna go to ground. I think he's watching you. They gave me good to me.
Okay, that voice right there, who said something about shots, your aiming guns at my brother? That's his brother. That's the victim, the gentleman on the ground. That's his brother. Witnessing probably his older brother being held at gunpoint by the police. And so, and also the victim, he just said, you know what? I'm not gonna. I'm just gonna get on the ground. Uh, because the police already tried to find any situation and shoot you. So the fact that he's coming closer, closer he gets. Let's say they did shoot him, and they want to get away with it. The closer he gets to them, the more justification they would have to shoot him. So he said, you know what? Just screw this. I'm just gonna get on the ground. Come to me. And like I said, considering the situations and the things that we're going through in this nation right now and in the past 15 years, I certainly don't blame him. Um,
Oh God.
all right, so it seems like, one thing I noticed at this point in the video was that the police officer was really, con- felt it was a very dangerous and bad situation. Why didn't they corner off the streets and stop cars and traffic from coming through? It's really weird. Uh, I would think in this situation they would have cornered, blocked off both intersections. Should have been police on the other end of the street also to stop cars from coming in and on the other end to stop them from coming in and going out that way. Why? I don't understand. Why would you not secure civilians in a situation you feel that may end up where you happen to shoot someone or be shot at? And so now we see here police a lot better where they're stationed. So we see one police right here. This is the guy with the assault rifle. This officer right here by his vehicle look like he just has his hands in his pocket. He has it seems like he has much better things to do. He understands that the situation isn't called for this much firepower and difficulty, and he's just ready to go. But behind it, there's another officer on the back passenger side of the police car also. And the way he's positioned, I may see it. I didn't pay too much attention first few times to him. The first few times I watched it, but I'm sure he has. I'm almost certain he also has a automatic assault rifle pointed at the gentleman in the yellow also. All right. So you hear the gentleman's brother explaining the situation, why his brother's out there, what transpired before police arrived. He said his brother uh, left the house and he came out to try to tell him to come back inside. And then that's when he saw his brother, at gunpoint by the police. And the police, all of a sudden, all together in unison, you see them all of a sudden just lose their formation and they're putting away their, guns, about to start getting in their vehicle. And so what happened was that there was an officer who called perhaps the superintendent or their supervisor, and he told them what was happening. He told them that they had someone they thought was a suspect. The neighbors were coming out making apprehension pretty difficult. Seems like he isn't the suspect and that he is unarmed. Can they stand down? And they got the word they were allowed to stand down. Uh, One cool thing that happened, I was able to out. I was the first one. I must toot my own horn to identify one of these officers. I'm going to show you a picture and a little information about him. And I was able to do that because this particular officer right here will call his name, and I was able to find him. And we're going to go over that also.
Brother, if we have to be a fucking meeting to the you understand that? Can't say my brother, my son, or you're not
Okay. You see, his brother, I don't blame him. I would be pretty pissed off too if I came outside and saw police officers aiming guns at my black brother also. And they're in Seattle. I'm almost certain black people are not a nice uh, demographic out there in Seattle. And it kind of sucks that they're out there in Seattle. But one thing I do, the white people out there in Seattle don't give a shit about the police. A few years ago, if you remember, when the whole George Floyd and all those killings, people of the white people of Seattle took over the city hall, took over like surrounding streets and were camping outside and damn near made their own town and took over and made it theirs. It was a sight to behold. Um, yeah, that was strange. And one thing, like I said, the brother, I understand he's upset, but all that emotion, all that raw emotion, don't feed into it. As black people, we don't have that luxury to express emotionally how we feel in many situations because we just always come off as being the aggressor. Oh yeah, and listen, he called him Walter. Uh, this officer called Fisherman Walter. That's how I was able to find his police information and photo. So I'll go back when he starts calling him Walter. I think he wants him to get in the car.
you understand that? Can't say my brother, my son, or you're not Walter. Walter. Oh my God.
Okay, that's pretty much the end of that video right there. We're gonna go over some more information about that video. Not too much, and we're gonna move on to the next one. And so, the officer called other officer Walter, and so I was able to find his information. People on the post were asking for it, wanting his name to be some of any of their names to be released because it wasn't. Even in the article I read, the name wasn't released, but I found it and I shared that with the community. And so another thing that stuck out to me about this situation was that if you police really didn't have proof that the gentleman didn't have a gun. Let's say he did. They didn't. They just left. They didn't put their guns down and continue to tell him to come forward at least so they can get his ID, check and see if he has warrants. Better understanding from him, personally through conversation, um, escalated conversation of what happened and why they did what they did. That was really strange that they didn't even bother to get his name or search him or make sure that he wasn't armed. So it's almost like a hit when you think about it. They didn't care about any of that personal information identification or anything, and so when they wasn't able to get their shots off like they had hoped, playing Call of Duty all night because citizens of that neighborhood stopped them. They just left. I guess they say, we'll try again tomorrow. All right, so now, uh, right here, the race soldiers of Seattle PD attempted to carry out an anti-black execution. We need the names of these suspected white supremacist race soldiers. Uh, and here we go right here. This is one of their names. His name is Walter Platt. He has 5 known incidents. People were wondering what do you mean by 5 incidents? Most likely those are police complaints from people, be anything such as force, um, just anything that they felt he violated their rights during the interaction with him. Those were the incidents. And so what I did, I clearly was able to point him out. And like I said in the post, I'm about 95% certain that Walter was this Walter, the same Walter who was at the scene of the situation that happened to the brother in the yellow. And so hopefully we can get some more information about that. Now in the article it says that one of the officers called the supervisor, asked them to sit down, so they did. They stood down and they left. The next story we're going to talk about, and I want to discuss, is about a situation happening out there in Colorado. If I'm not mistaken, did did that Deion Sanders, did he just go to Colorado? Let me make sure. Believe he just took the job to go out there. Yep, yep, the University of Colorado. This isn't about Dion. I don't want to discuss that, but what I do want to say is that pretty unfortunate that Dion, for whatever reason, felt he had to leave an all-black college to go to a white university to do his job, and then the state of Colorado. I'm about to share with you a bit of information about that's still going on about farmers, black farmers out there are getting death threats and their livestock killed with notes and threats telling them to leave. And so you got Deion Sanders going out there to, do some great things for that state. And black people who've been there for generations who are facing just terrible hate from those around them. This is one of the black farmers out there. It says on the post, it says, please share and retweet this black farming family out in Colorado is being racially targeted and terrorized by some local and law enforcement there. There's a rally pull up being organized at the Denver Capitol on February 17th. Follow Black Farmland Owners Matters on IG. So I'm going to share this farmer's video with you. He is also being targeted by regular everyday civilians out where he lives, and police officers are targeting him in order to get him off of his land that his family has had for generations and where he farms and make his living so that they can have it. The local government, the mayor aren't doing anything at all about it. So it's up to everyday citizens like myself and you to put the word out there, to make calls, and to basically phone harass the local government of that area because this shouldn't be happening. One thing that we hear all the time is that black people need to pull ourselves up by our bootstraps, stop complaining, stop looking for government handouts. Yet every situation and every opportunity they're giving to bring us down a notch, they take it. Like the turkey leg hut out there in Texas, that black-owned business is popping. It's always packed lines across the block. They're always being sued by somebody. They're always getting some type of ordinance violation. A few years ago, they got an ordinance violation saying the smoke from their chimney was too much and it violated some health code because of the smoke out of their chimney. Now they want to say they're being sued because they couldn't pay for their uh, groceries, the more distribution or their food that they get from the whatever farm or plant they get their food. They're getting sued by them said they haven't paid their bill. Then they're getting sued because they said they ain't paying their taxes. Every situation it is when black people are trying to do the right thing, trying to create our own business, always facing problems that no other race of people have to face in this country. We have Asian Asian sex parlors, being marketed as massage parlors in this country. I don't see police raiding them. We have them allegedly cooking rats and cats and dogs, and they ain't getting no health code violations. You got Hispanics sitting up here working with an entire restaurant full of illegal immigrants, and nobody's coming up in there to check them. But a black business and black farmers simply trying to do what it takes to make a living, to be productive, to just add another notch under the belt of black people in this nation for us to be able to own our own stuff and own businesses. They always find a way to try to sabotage us. And so here's the video of this gentleman uh, giving us a brief explanation and update on what happened and where he's staying.
Hello, world pharmacy deputy. Report live to the people of my friends this morning. I'd like to say thank you to everybody that comes out showing support. I'd like to say thank you to those that decided to stay. Continue on with the ongoing effort of support. And I'd like to say thank you, world, for sticking in there with me. The fight is not over. I've been informed this morning by a fellow service member that the police called on us 5 times this past weekend for doing work on our lane, performing while playing. That's not a crime. Elijah McClain would still be alive to this day if it wasn't for somebody calling saying that black man is walking down the street. That's not a crime.
If for anyone out there who may not have heard or a little vague on who Elijah McClain is, Elijah McClain was this young black brother. I believe he was probably around 19, 20 years old out there in Colorado a few years ago, who was killed by police. Now Elijah, he was walking home. I believe he was coming from work, and he had like a learning delay. He probably was on autism spectrum or something like that, but he was a great innocent guy. This guy, you know, probably never had a girlfriend, doing his best he could do in school, having a job, really nice person. Uh, Love poetry, skateboarding out there in Colorado. I mean, this was a genuinely good teenage kid. And they set up there, got a police call saying that they got a that there's some strange man walking around, and he looks suspicious. Police go out there, they hem the brother up a little bit, beat him up. Paramedics go out there and inject him, I believe with some sort of sedative, because they said he was too rowdy, you know, too antsy or whatever, and it killed him. Now, based on the autopsy, it was kind of, a little vague on whether it was paramedics who injected this brother with some sort of medicine while he's being detained on the ground by police. Never heard that before. That somebody just come up, grabbing, jabbing something in your body, and that's definitely a violation of his constitutional rights. Or if it was that, or if it was the injuries he received from police during that encounter that killed him. Either way, like this farmer said, walking and farming while black is not a crime, and we must do everything we can in order to make sure that it never becomes one. I may do a video on Elijah McClain later on when I do, start releasing these short true crime documentaries. So stay tuned for that. But I'll go back a few seconds and I'll let it play out as much as I can until I feel I need to interject a little.
Elijah McClain would still be alive to this day if it wasn't for somebody calling saying that a black man is walking down the street. That's not a crime. None of that is a crime. Farming while on your own land is not a crime. The people that were out here this past weekend didn't deserve to be tormented and harassed by Gerhard's goons. I guess I'm finna be facing charges. New charges are finna be coming down the pipeline on me for being on my own land.
Now, he said he believes he's going to face some sort of repercussions from Gerhard's goons. Gerhard's, if I'm not mistaken, which I'm not sure. Either Gerhard is the sheriff who's been harassing him and helping the local citizens harass him, or Gerhard's the mayor. Hopefully he gives us a better insight on who actually this Gerhard is. And once he does, I'll do as much and as best I can to share that information with you all.
World, I'm asking that y'all come out in full force on 2/17/23 to the Denver Capitol. And we state our claim that the Terrorism Act be passed and put into law that make it a crime, a hate crime, to weaponize the police against people of color. Has to stop, world.
Yeah, so Terrorism Act is a law that was put into place and was introduced. It hasn't passed yet, but it was a law. I don't think it passed everywhere. In most states, it hasn't passed. Probably in a couple. But the Terrorism Act says that it's against the law for people to call the police on black people without just cause, without reason. Because what they're doing and what they've been conditioned to do by the American government would be to call police on black people and the police will come and take care of them. Now, take care of them has changed over the years, but now take care of them is shoot and kill them. So that Karen Act would stop that and make that a hate crime and charge people for knowingly making false police reports on black people simply for existing. I believe Karen Act may have come into play when that bird watcher, the black guy who was a bird watcher in New York, was at the park, and that white Karen sat up there and started harassing him. Luckily, he filmed it, and she was on the phone with the police while he's filming her, lying, saying he's assaulting and attacking. So yeah, I believe that's what got the Karen Act introduced into law in that particular situation. But let's continue.
Farming while black is not a crime. Being on your own land is not a crime. This Officer Gerhard needs to be fired, needs to be removed. He needs to be sitting in a jail cell. Him and all his goons that partake and allow for the mistreatment of people of color. We got a long road, world. We got a long road ahead of us. Strap up your boots. It has to stop, world. It has to stop. It's not a crime. Farming on your own land is not a crime. Signing out, world.
All right. So one thing that this brother did on two separate occasions within his post, he wanted to soften his language a little bit. Black people tend to do that when they use the term people of color. When black people say people of color, it's more palatable for the general population to accept. We have to get out of that mentality of saying people of color when these situations that we're referring to and these crimes are happening to black people. We can't continue to sugarcoat and placate to the emotions and the feelings of everybody around us. We're in a tough time right now. We have to be direct and very specific about our requests and about what we're saying and who we're saying it about and who are the victims. People of color are not getting their farms trying to people of color are not getting their land stole from under them. Uh, he's not a person of color. He's a black man. Black farmers who are having to deal with their local state governments trying to use pen and paper threats to get to most of their land that's rightfully theirs. It's crime. So let's stop using that term people of color. Um, the crimes that's being committed on us are not delicate. So let's stop making our language delicate for other people to not feel so intimidated by the word black. I have an article about this gentleman right here I found. And so some of the things that he's been going through, some of the threats that he's been having on his land is people are killing his life. And they're leaving notes and messages saying, go away, get out of here, be you, you're next, all that sort of stuff. They're gutting his pigs, breaking the necks of his lamb, and just causing havoc on this man's property. I don't understand how any local government, especially out there in Colorado, there are a lot of ranchers out there in Colorado. And the ranchers out there in Colorado hold a lot of political sway. They generate a lot of money, and their job for the nation is extremely important. This situation should not have gotten past his first complaint. For this gentleman to continuously have to make complaint after complaint after complaint after complaint about the police officers working with civilians cause him and his business, his farmland, and his livestock harmed, and nothing gets done. This is a concerted effort from those at the top of his local government who wants to take his land without having to pay for it. And it should not have gotten this far. His farm, the name of this gentleman's farm, if you're interested, is called Freedom Acres Ranch. And that the name of his farm right there should tell you, at least it tells me, that that land was his most likely through inheritance, and it's been with his family for a while. Freedom Acres isn't just a catchy phrase for or a cool name for a ranch. Freedom Acres means freedom from oppression of slavery. So I believe that that land was with his family for quite a while. Even the name of his ranch, I know, puts a bug up the sheriff and the mayor's ass because it makes them seriously remember the hardship and the oppression and terrorism white people have done to black people, particularly in the state of Colorado. And so, in this article that we're looking at, it says every night on Freedom Acres Ranch is a gamble of life and death for black cattleman Courtney Mallory and his wife Nicole. As of late, He most likely will find tools destroyed, a prize cattle stolen, or one of his hogs with their entrails spewed from slit bellies. Beheaded and butchered goat carcasses are common sight. To make the situation more tenuous, Mr. Mallory's fence has been destroyed over 10 times. They're having to replace their surveillance equipment. And it says one day, Courtney, which is Mr. Mallory, I believe that's the same gentleman in the video we just saw on Twitter. Says one day Courtney was chased by a white man when repairing a portion of his fence. The aggressor, who was in a car, gunned for Courtney, who made it to his vehicle in just enough time to dash away in a hellish pursuit. Once he made it to the end of his property, the man steered the other way. So if this man's property, his fence, just his fence alone, was damaged 10 times, I guarantee you that's at least 10 calls he had to make about this situation. For it not to be solved, for nothing to be done by the local government, you can't trust the police. What's he supposed to do? I believe he's going to the Supreme Court of the state to get this addressed, which is totally unnecessary. Should not have to get that far. The mayor needs to be kicked out of office. Sheriffs need to be in prison, in jail, terrorism. And the state needs to reimburse this man every single penny of money that he had to spend on repairing his property, every cent of money that he lost by the murders of his livestock. It's just unnecessary, it's just sad, terrible. And that goes back to the point that I made before. Every time black people have something of our own and we can make a living from it, somehow sabotage. And no other race of people have to go through this. And that's why we need to stop saying this whole phrase people of color. Just say black people. Alright, moving on to our next situation, our next story that I want to cover that ties in into this thread of black people interaction with police. Do you all remember that story about that in Florida about that home hit? He was a some sort of mental. He's a teacher for the mentally ill children, more like a caretaker. And so one of the students he was caring for got outside the facility. He was having one of his, you know, manic moments, and he went into the street, and he refused to leave the middle of the street. Talking about the kid with, you know, the mental disability. And so he pretty much just sat down in the middle of the street while traffic was going past. And the gentleman who we're discussing is Charles Kinsey. This happened a few years ago. I think about 5 or 6 years ago. And so he went out there to try to corral this student with a learning disability back into the building for safety out the middle of the street. Someone called the police again, saying that they believe that there's a person who's dangerous to themselves and also the public. I believe they were referring to the autistic child, that they thought he had a gun and he was going to take his own life. Charles here didn't know anything about the call until after the situation transpired. So what happened? As Charles is tending to coerce this young child, he's not young, he's a teenager, big teenager, childlike mindset. As he's addressing him and trying to get him together, suddenly he sees police cars begin to encircle him and demand that he get on the ground, put a gun away, and Charles he was standing up at first, and he repeatedly told them there is no weapon. The teacher at the school that they're all in front of, and that the person on the ground, the child with mental disabilities, he's just trying to get him back in the building. I guess that wasn't enough convincing for the police. He's standing there for so long and not getting anywhere with the police after he repeatedly told him that the situation didn't call for it, and what the police were seeing in that young man's hands right there was a toy fire truck. Whatever reason they thought it was a gun. And they said that we thought that the kid was holding him hostage. And he repeatedly said, hey, you know what? This isn't that. What are you doing? Stop pointing your guns at me. So it got to a point where Mr. Kenny Charles just said, you know what? Obviously, and that's what he's thinking. That's what I'm thinking as I watch the video. Obviously, you guys don't know how to do your job. You don't know how to properly de-escalate. I'm just gonna lay on my goddamn back on the ground with my arms spread. Up in the air. Since you're so afraid and you're not listening to common sense, and you're not reading the goddamn room, I'm gonna lay on the ground, have my hands in the air to show you that I'm totally not a threat. This is a dangerous situation. And what happened is that the goddamn police shot him anyway.
Charles Kinsey is lying on the ground, hands in the air. Police are out of sight, pointing their guns. You can hear Kinsey trying to explain. He's a healthcare professional, the man on the road next to his autistic patient. As long as I got my hands up, they're not going to shoot me. This is what I'm thinking. They're not going to shoot me. Wow, was I wrong? Minutes later, after the video ends, police hit Kinsey in the leg. And when it hit me, I'm like, I still got my hands in the air. I'm saying, no, I just got shot. And I'm standing there, I'm like, sir, why did you shoot me? And, and his words to me, he said, I don't know.
Go to the doctor, and you have to get surgery on a broken finger. And the surgeon fixes your broken finger, cuts off your thumb. And you say, my pinky was broken. You fix it. How the hell did you cut off my thumb? And he says, I don't know. You know he wouldn't have a job. He will lose his medical license. And he may go to jail. Any profession in this country where you display a gross negligence that causes harm to someone out of your own stupidity, you're going to be fired, and you're most likely going to go to jail. For some reason, police officers, those who have the greatest responsibility to public safety, those who are supposed to exemplify the laws of the Constitution and their state laws perfectly, have leeway so far that they can kill you without justification, without even giving justification, and their local governments and judicial system helps them get away with the crime. So that's what happened in Mr. Kenny's case. The officer who shot him for no good reason got off scot-free. The jury let him off. The officer's name was Jonathan Aida. He was charged with 2 counts of felony attempted manslaughter and 2 counts of misdemeanor culpable negligence. Out of those 4 charges, the goddamn racist jury can charge him with one thing. Police officer is on camera shooting 3 times at a defenseless person. Come to find out, officer reportedly said he was firing at Rio Soto. Rio Soto is the autistic gentleman who Charles was trying to help out the middle of the street. Immediately after the situation happened, and Mr. Charles asked Jonathan, "Why did you shoot me?" His answer was, "I don't know." Months later, in the trial, all of a sudden he had a reason. He knew why he shot him. It was an accident. He was trying to shoot the autistic for no reason. And he got off. So when you see a string of consistent behavior from police officers, and then you see a string of consistent behavior from the judicial system and people in the jury to acquit them, it leaves one thing possible. Any intelligent black person who pays attention to this stuff consistently, that black people are marked for death, and slowly they're eroding our right to life away. They're eroding the fact that people can get away with it, and this has to stop. This has to stop. There's absolutely no reason, no justification to shoot someone and they're on the ground. It doesn't matter who the officer was aiming for. Either he was aiming for Charles, who he shouldn't have shot at, laying on his back, hands in the air, or even if he was actually and honestly aiming for Mr. Soto, the autistic person. You can't tell me that's not negligence. We should hold off on the entire manslaughter thing. In no situation, in no place in intelligent society, honest, unracist society, should that not be some form of negligence? I just don't get it. I don't get it. This sort of behavior from law enforcement be stopped overnight. All that needs to happen is white people say enough is enough. White people tend, and they like to say that, well, last year 283 white people were killed by the police, and only 205 black people were killed by the police. So this isn't racism. It's just a simple fact that people are not doing what they're supposed to do when the police tell them to do it. Irregardless of the fact that that number is for people who are unarmed. White people are willing to sacrifice their own just to know that it's happening disproportionately to black people also. If black people understood, if black people had a better grasp of racism and the entire framework of white sacrifice, they'll never be fooled. Because there are some black people who can be fooled into saying, yeah, well, there was a lot of white people who got killed by the police too. Maybe that's not racism. Yes. I'm not even talking about the numbers. This is disproportionate. It's more of them. It's more of that. Simple fact that the culture of policing itself was created and founded from slavery. And that is held over in their traditions and how they interact with black people to this very day in 2020. And the fact that white people have no problem when one of their own unarmed is killed by the police, they're not marching, they're not protesting. Shit, they're not even going up to the Capitol buildings like they did January 6th for Trump. They're not even doing that. And that's because they understand you gotta break a few eggs to get the ones you really want. Their main target is black people. Those are just white sacrifices that comes with the territory. White society knows that. Long as black people are the focal point of the tip of the spear, as long as black people are the ones that the system is mainly focused towards in taking away our rights, taking away our lives, white people will sit there all day and be fine with that. And for no reason, white people should not be up in arms and upset about the behavior of police in this country. There's no way that we have many laws that's waiting to be passed in the last 10 years of all these unarmed black people getting shot. Ain't passed in the House of Representatives or the Senate. Absolutely no reason why we still live in a system where police have de facto power to take life in the middle of the street from someone who is clearly not a threat and get away with it. Only reason that's allowed to happen is because we live in a nation built, founded, and maintained on white supremacy, and white people's lives, their very identity is tied to how we're being treated in society. Black people are being treated as second, fourth class citizens in America. White people say, all right, white people feel good, feel justified. They continue to have the ability to say, black people fault, we don't work hard enough, we're not smart enough, we don't have daddies and all. They, as long as white people can use that as a justification to why negative things happen to us, they're fine with it. But we cannot get complacent. We have to stay vigilant. We have to share information. We have to show up in our cities, in our towns, find out information, and to enter these protests and help these brothers and sisters out who are being targeted by law enforcement. We just have to be there for each other. And before, I sign off, I just want you all to remember something Mr. Neely Fuller Jr. said that I want to repeat, and I want you to understand. Whenever you have an interaction with police, you only have to remember three things. It may not mean that they won't kill you. It just means when they get in front of a jury, they get in front of a judge, they won't have anything to justify it. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. We're combatant in a war, we fight behind enemy lines, and we must act accordingly. Not all this emotional, uncontrollable stuff, especially coming from black men. Better control your emotions. Read the situation. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee. Any problem you're having with the situation and the police, handle that in the court. When the police tell you to get your ass out the car, show them your license, get on the ground. If you're not in a position and you're not willing to take a life, to save your own, do what they say. You're always going to be outgunned. You're always going to be outmanned. When it comes to the court, you're always going to be wrong. Don't fuss, don't fight, don't flee, unless you're willing to go and get maximum compensatory justice for the wrong that you, in that particular moment, are receiving. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for spending the night with me and discussing these topics. There's more to come. I got a few things in the pipeline I'm going to share with you all. Once that comes more to fruition, don't want to, you know, drop the baby out the bathwater before the water, any of that stuff. I don't want to let the cat out the bag too soon. But we're gonna have a good time. We're gonna learn some things. We're gonna get to know each other, and we're gonna be better today, and we're gonna be better tomorrow, and we're gonna be better all the time, every day that we wake up. Take care. Peace. You can call me Jonathan, and No Names Media.